pictures and videos.
Hello, welcome. We're just about ready to start, but we want to make an announcement for those who would like Spanish translation. We're setting up here at the front for some help with Spanish translation. So shall we have them come up here to the front to get headphones? Obispo Star, or you'll help pass them out. So we'll get missionaries who will help pass them out. Raise your hand if you'd like some Espanol translation, if I am saying that right. Been working on that, really. No, thank you. We're so excited that you're here tonight. This is just a thrill. And are we ready? Shall we start? Oh, it's 7. All right. We are so delighted to welcome you to this wonderful gathering, an evening of family connection with Relative Race from Brigham Young University TV, BYU TV. This is a production made by Lenswork Productions, and we have the creator of Relative Race is with us and is able to be one of our speakers tonight. His name is Dan Debenham. And we'll introduce him and the wonderful general manager of Lenswork Productions, Rebecca Dalton. But we're thrilled that you would come and travel, and many of you have traveled a great distance to come and be with us. My name is Jeff Chapman. I am the president of the Texas Fort Worth Mission, and we get to work. My wife and I had been called to come and serve here in Texas for 3 years to work with our wonderful missionaries. We have 188 missionaries who are currently serving in the Texas Fort Worth area, and then another almost a dozen wonderful senior couples who also are part of the Texas Fort Worth mission. We are going to get things set up with Spanish translation. We're going to get things out to you and help you, but we want to start by singing together. It's in these green hymn books in front of you if you want to pull one of those out, or if you've got the hymn app on your phone, then you can look up hymn 300, Families Can Be Together Forever. Lana McNaughton, who's a missionary here in our mission, will be our chorister. Nathan Estes, also a missionary serving in our mission, will be at the piano. Following that hymn, we will have an opening prayer by Ellie Kilgore, currently serving as one of our missionaries in the mission. Here we go.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful for this Sabbath day that we have to be here gathered together for this family connection night, and we are grateful for the preparation that has gone into allowing this to happen, and we're so grateful for all those that are in attendance and those that have traveled a long distance, and we ask Thee to bless those who are not with us and help them to know of our love for them, and please help Thy Spirit to be here this evening as we get to hear from these wonderful speakers and be able to connect with our fellow saints here on earth. And we love Thee so much, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. That was beautiful. You sang so well. I just love how that sounded. Thank you for singing that. And family matters. We're blessed tonight, Sister Chapman and I, to have our daughter here with us. Out of our 5 children, we had one who was able to come and be here in Texas, right nearby us. We're grateful for you, Camilla. And I hope you are here with family, or that you feel the connection of family and how important that is in your life. We're going to hear a lot about that tonight, and about the role that this wonderful TV program, Relative Race, plays in bringing families together. Before we do, I want to recognize some of the people that are up here on the stand. So, of course, we have Rebecca and Dan. We have Sister Chapman sitting right there. She looks so beautiful. And I'm so glad to get to be her companion. On this side are President Warren Merritt, who serves as a counselor in the mission presidency with his wife Lenore Merritt. And over here is President Chris Baird and his wife Janae Baird, and President Baird serves as a counselor in the presidency as well. And then the Arlington Stake, this wonderful stake of Zion. We say stake, and we're ready to break out the New York strips, and we know sometimes that can be a confusing term. In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a stake builds off of the scripture by Isaiah, where he talks about how there will be stakes of Zion, how there will be kind of the tent poles of the house of Israel that build the tent of Israel, and the stakes go into the ground and help support the tent in being able to stay up. These stakes are what we call these various divisions of the church, and so in Arlington, the Arlington stake is presided over with a stake president and counselors. And tonight we're joined by President Alan Hilton, who represents the stake presidency, and we're so glad to be here with you tonight, President. And again, we're grateful to all the technology crew helping us here from the Arlington Stake, the translation support from the Arlington Stake. We just can't thank you enough for helping us pull this off tonight. We're going to begin by hearing a musical number. 2 of our sisters, Bethany Fox on violin and Livia Hill on piano, will play an instrumental song called Gethsemane that focuses on the experience of the Savior in the Garden of Gethsemane. After that song, we'll get to hear from Dan Debenham and Rebecca Dalton. Let me introduce them to you, and then after the musical number, then Dan can just jump up and get started. Dan Debenham, prior to starting Lenswork, Dan spent 10 years working with ESPN in a wide variety of on-air anchoring and reporting positions. He continues to work as a national on-air talent, and he hosts several of the Lenswork production projects, including Relative Race. And I will tell you, as I've spent time with Dan over the last 2 days, he loves what he gets to do. And he'll tell you, but I just want you to know, he views this experience with Relative Race as the most meaningful experience of his career. And he's got 35 plus years in the entertainment and sports industry, and what an amazing feat he's done with Relative Race. Dan is a proud father to 4 amazing children and 6 perfectly beautiful granddaughters. And he just absolutely adores them. Rebecca Dalton is a mother to 2 young girls. She has now worked with Lenswork for 4 years. And prior to joining this team, she says, I was a stay-at-home mom. Film was not even on my radar as far as my career. My formal education is in emergency management. But somehow Relative Race found me, she says, and I've never looked back. We love these two. We've kind of adopted them already into our lives. And we're excited to get to hear from them tonight. So first our musical number, Gethsemane, and then Dan Debenham and Rebecca Dalton.
I didn't know that I could jump like that, not at my age. I love beautiful music. Thank you, sisters. It sets a beautiful tone, and I love beautiful people. And we've got beautiful people here. Y'all from Texas, so I should have said y'all from Texas, and I love beautiful people. In fact, I grew up in Alaska, about as far away from here as you can, and my father was, we grew up okay. My dad would take us to Hawaii. It was a lot cheaper, and it was warm. And we would go to Hawaii, and when we would attend church in Hawaii, what I loved is everybody that got up to the pulpit, they'd say, "Aloha, brothers and sisters." And the whole, everybody in the congregation would say what? Aloha. Exactly. But we're in Texas. So how about y'all making me feel happy? And I'm going to say, how y'all doing? And then I'm going to say, howdy. And then you guys are going to say, okay. So how y'all doing? Howdy. Oh, there you go. I think we have started a new tradition. And you know what? I don't think your stake presidency or the mission presidency is ever going to let me back. So I will tell you this. I first want to know, just by raise of hands, how many people are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that are with us tonight? Just raise your hand for me, will you? Okay, I love that. Shaquille, are you here with us? Where's Shaquille? Shaquille, man, I'm glad I met you. I'm glad I met you. I'm so glad that you're here with us. You know, I love seeing this faith that I love open its arms globally to everyone of every color, of other faiths, of all races. My parents taught me that way. My mom and dad, now here's maybe a Texas, they would have slapped me silly if I had ever looked at somebody with a different look. And I just love when I see people out here of all different colors and maybe all different faiths, because you know what? I grew up to truly believe that we are all brothers and sisters. I like to have fun. Like I leaned over to this good brother and sister. What is your position? What are your callings?
Second counselor in the mission presidency.
There you go. So second counselor in the mission presidency, and when President Chapman said, you know, we've kind of adopted Rebecca and Dan, I leaned over and I said, yeah, he's my brother from another mother. But that's how I feel. And so we're all brothers and sisters, literally, spiritually. We're all brothers and sisters. So I want to take you back to a time long, long ago. Some of you are going to look up to your parents or grandparents and go, when was that? And it was 1979. My parents had moved to Utah. My father's from a part of the Utah Valley called East Mill Creek. My mother was the youngest of 13 children that grew up in a farming community on a farm called Delta, Utah. And we used to love to come down to Utah because I got to ride horses in Delta, feed the cows, milk the cows, and then when we went up to my grandma and grandpa's in East Mill Creek, they had a pool. And that was like, oh, man, especially a kid from Alaska. So cool that, by the way, we learned how to dock start water skiing and then to make sure we didn't fall in the lake and ski right back up to the shore. So in 1979, my father comes down to me because I'm sure that I'm going to follow in his footsteps and I'm going to go to law school because my other two older brothers are in medical school. And my dad comes down and he says, Dad, I want you to read this article, Dan. It's from Parade Magazine. Who remembers Parade Magazine in the Sunday? Okay, why? Because it was in color. And so there was the Parade Magazine. He said, I want you to read this article. And the article was on this new technology. The young kids are just going to go, what? There was a time when that wasn't around? So I read this article, and it says that there is going to be a launch within the next year of something called cable television. And cable television is going to have up to 15, that's 15, not 50, 15 channels. And I thought, that is impossible. There are 13 little numbers on that dial that goes around. And we get 4 of them, and I have to move that, I got to move all the tinfoil around to hope that 2 of them come in. And it said that there was going to be lots of jobs opening up for anchors and reporters and producers and photographers. Well, I knew what a photographer was. My dad was one of the best amateur photographers I ever knew. I was pretty sure what a reporter was, but I didn't know what an anchor was. We had a boat. I knew what that was. And my dad said, you don't know what an anchor is? Because I came in and I said, well, this is interesting. How does it apply to me? And he said, I think you should be an anchor. I said, what's an anchor? He said, don't you watch the news? I said, I'm a junior in high school and I work at Kmart and I play football, basketball, and baseball. When do I have time to watch the news? He says, we are going to watch the news tonight. And I went, oh, we're breaking the Sabbath. We get to watch something on TV on Sunday other than the wonderful world of Disney. I was never allowed to watch Bonanza that came on right afterwards, and it broke my heart. It would start, din, 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 and I'd go, and my dad would go over, no, and he'd turn that off, and we'd all just go, oh, no, I want to see Bonanza. And so my dad says, I want you to see an anchor. And he flips on the TV, and I move that antenna till he says, there we go. And I sit down, and there is this man, and he was handsome, broad-chested, beautiful suit, a little bit of gray on the side. And he seemed to look straight at me as he said, good evening, I'm Dick Norse, and this is the KSL Evening News. And then he continued to talk. And I looked at my dad, and I said, you mean he gets paid to talk? And my dad says, yeah, and I think he gets paid very well. And I said, that's the job for me. And that's what I did. I majored in broadcast journalism. I started in sports in my hometown in Anchorage, Alaska. And in 1989, ESPN was up covering the World Alpine Ski Championships. And a producer came by and said, lose 10 pounds and send me a tape. And I wound up at ESPN. Then my family and my children, and this is the key. After starting in Anchorage and breaking in, having good mentors, staying at ESPN, having wonderful mentors, my wife and children say, we want you home, Dad, because I hosted, everything that I hosted or anchored was on the road, except for in the summer I filled in for SportsCenter. So my wife and kids asked me to be home, so I resigned and I moved back to Utah. And I went to work at Channel 4, and I hosted a daytime talk show for women. And I loved it. It was like The View, but it was the predecessor to that. It was called Good Things Utah, and I loved it. I didn't like the station, and I didn't like my co-hosts, and so I left. But I met my business partner there. And 23 years ago, we started LensWorks Productions. And when we started it, all those years ago, there were no streaming services. There was no way to watch anything on television. There were VHS tapes, but everything that we created either had to be direct to a television or cable channel or on VHS tape. And yet, our mantra of our company, LensWorks Productions, was creating programming with a purpose. And all those years later, when BYU TV came into our doorsteps, along with Ancestry, and said, we want you to create a show that will tell people how they might find family using DNA. And we said, okay, half an hour. They said an hour. I said, okay. Tell me how you're doing DNA at Ancestry. And they said, well, we send you a tube, and then you spit into the tube, and you send it to us, and we send it to our laboratories. And then we get all of the DNA from that, and we put that into, in essence, a library of DNA from all the other people that have spit into tubes. And I said, let me get this right. You want an hour-long show on finding family from spitting into a tube? And they said, yeah, that's what you guys are good at, so figure that out and come back to us. So we came back. We said, we have this idea called the relative race. And they immediately said, can you drop the word the? Yeah, it's just a working title. Yeah, better for social media. Oh yeah, I've heard of that thing for the last decade. Don't know what it is, but yeah, we can drop the title. So we dropped the word the, which is called relative race. And from there, that's how the show was born. For those of you who have never seen it, do not be shy. You will not hurt my feelings. Make sure and escort anybody that raises their hand out, please. Who has not watched Relative Race? Raise your hands. Be proud. Be a non-Relative Race viewer. Okay. All right. About a fourth of you, it looks like. I'll say a tenth when I get back to the office. Okay. That's okay. Let me tell you in a nutshell, because I'm going to show you certain things. And I hope that you will feel in these small clips, it's not about us. I hope in these small clips that you will sense the importance of someone who doesn't have family or doesn't have any biological family, the moment that they meet them with no direction, no scripts, 42 cameras rolling at any given time, and I want you to see that moment unfold. But I want to tell you first about the show. In a nutshell, we have 4 teams every season, 2 people apiece. Normally they're married couples, but we've had siblings, we've had adopted siblings. And by the way, there's something happening in season 10, which we are filming in 2.5 weeks that will air this coming fall, that has never happened before on one of our teams. And that's what we call a tease. And you'll have to wait and see what that is. But it's true. Rebecca, is that true?
Oh, it's true.
And by the way, we've had a lot of people, Rebecca and I think it's the greatest compliment. Rebecca's not my wife, She's not my other wife. She's not my sister wife. She's our general manager. But it's interesting. So many people have kind of, and I go, no, she's not my wife. She's our general manager. So Relative Race takes these 4 teams of 2 people. We fly them out to a location that they don't know anything about, and we take away all their smart technology. We give them identical cars, and we give them old-fashioned flip phones with no GPS or internet access. And then we text them with clues on where to go every day. They have to overcome a physical challenge in the middle of the day, and once they overcome the physical challenge and they've arrived in that city where their relative lives, as soon as they overcome that challenge that we put in their place, they get the address to someone that they hope is their relative. Well, I mean, if they've watched the show, they know it's their relative. They then have to navigate to their relative. All no GPS. That's fun by itself. Yeah, people who've watched the show are laughing because it's really funny. Because I'm sure you're at home like me. I know everything about the show, and I'm going, you got to be kidding. All I had to do was follow I-5. It's like, how did they get lost for 20 minutes? But it happens. So once they arrive at this address, their clock is stopped. They have a clock from the moment they receive the first text in the morning from the host, which happens to me. You don't see me in here. That's good. But I also, so our company created the show. My business partners and I are the executive producers. And then most of our clients often ask me to also host the various things that we produce. And this is the greatest blessing of my life, literally. And so when they get to the door of this relative, their clock stops. And they know that. They know they're not on the clock. That's by design. They've had a pretty tough day usually. Their emotions all over the place. And we want that by design as well because we want them to be kind of emotionally spent. And they ring the door. They knock on the door, and the door opens, and somebody on the other side of the door answers, and the first question that our teams have, "Hi, are you my relative?" The person in the door says, "I am." And then if they're a husband and wife team, they say, "Well, who are you related to? Is it me or my wife?" And the person says, "Well," and if they're really good on camera and we don't direct them, they'll pause, and I'm like, "Oh, this is good, this is good." And then he or she looks down and says, let's say it's me, "Well, Dan, I'm your relative." And what's the next question you would ask automatically? How are we related? The person looks at them, and it's often with tears that they then say, "Well, Dan, I'm your father, or I'm your mother, or I'm your brother, or I'm your sister." And those emotions are real, and we're going to show you some of those. So that's a little bit of the backdrop. The first thing that I want to show you, I have these very sophisticated notes. They're incredibly sophisticated. Okay. The first scene that I want to tell you about, first, I want to set up the scene, is from our second season. This is Joe and Maddie Greer. Now, those of you who know the show, I just saw people go like this on their hearts. So the story here was Joe and Maddie Greer were newly married. She had a kind of a budding modeling career, and he worked at a youth Christian camp as a photographer. And he was lost. Why? Because his mother was killed by a drunk driver when he was 4 years old. Never knew, and he was raised by his mother, never knew who his father was. And when she died, that answer went to the grave with her. And he just felt completely alone. He just didn't know where he belonged. And this is what happened. And when you see episode up there, it just means that day. We have 10 episodes, 10 days. And so I think this was episode 7 or 8, meaning it's day 7 or 8. And I want you to see what happened.
It took me, I think, till about him to get to the base of the steps to really understand what was about to happen.
Joe, it's great to meet you.
He walked towards me and embraced me, and man.
So, whose relative are you?
I'm Joe's father.
Really?
Really.
I honestly didn't think a day like this would ever happen. You know, it's always just been this weird, like, distant dream. Like, there's no way anybody will be able to find him. Wow. Holy smokes.
Oh my word.
Doug?
Yeah.
You knew my mom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can talk about all of that. It's a long story.
I can't wait to hear it. Wow. It's just overwhelming. I don't know what to do with all of it. That's amazing.
That's great.
Look at that. We look alike, don't we? Look at that.
Look at that.
I love that. My father is Douglas H. McElhaney, and I found him on Relative Race.
I ask you, I'm not trying to be melodramatic, but I hope you can feel the spirit of family in that one scene. But as Paul Harvey said, and for those of you who are young, you'll have to ask who that was. And now for the rest of the story. When we contacted his father, and believe me, it was difficult to find him, not by choice, it was just difficult, as it is for most of these family members. He was a dance instructor on a cruise ship. He was single, and he didn't know he had this son. He was married to a woman from South Korea, I think, or Vietnam. Anyway, that's the little, like the Asian girl that you saw, that was his daughter. And when we told him that he had a son, he said, that's impossible. We said, well, we have DNA. And he said, your DNA is wrong. And we said, okay, we'll do another DNA test of your choice. He said, fine. He said, I have a really expensive DNA. I said, that's fine. We did it, sent it back to him. We said 99.999999% sure you're his father. That test wasn't worth anything. Okay, I have a better one. This one's $1,100. We'll pay for it. Send it back. You're 99.999. That one was no good. I want another one. So we sent him another one. They got progressively expensive. And I think it was the fourth or fifth one that he said, I have a son. I want to meet him. And the great thing that happened here, Joe, as you know, who watched the show, went on that day to meet two sisters. And if you remember, he also got his third strike that night. And so he was off the show, but he met all of his relatives, including his father and two sisters. And what I don't think very few people know is 6 months later, his father passed away. And they were all together at the funeral. That is how important family is. Imagine being that person that had never known a mother and father, and you may be out here, but don't ever give up, because I can promise you this, even if it's not in this life, you will be reunited. We just happen to do it on a television show. All right, the next thing I want to point out to you is I want to talk about season 3. This is Michael and Dylan Anderson. For those of you who remember, it was a father-son team. He had the fedora hats. We didn't know forever. The reason why is he had a big bald spot in it. I didn't know that. He was a photographer. And Michael was adopted into a loving family. And both of his adoptive parents died before he turned 13, before he became a teenager. And in his backstory, which airs always in the first episode, that says who these people are and why do they want to be on the show and who are they looking for. In that backstory, I will never forget that Michael looked at our cameras, and he was 47 or 48 years old. This grown man looked into our cameras and clenched his bottom lip as hard as he could so he wouldn't cry as he said, I just want to know, and he's from North Carolina and he's a good old boy. And he said, I just want to know if there's anybody out there that has ever loved me. And this is what happened on this episode.
So I'm running up and I see this lady standing on the front porch. Hi, I'm Michael.
I'm your mother. Oh, Michael, I'm never gonna let you go again, never. Oh, Michael. Oh, Michael. You don't know how good it's...
Darling. I have waited since I found out I was adopted when I was 11 years old. I've wanted to meet you.
I've been wanting to see you too. My name is Rhonda Beckham, and I'm Michael's mother.
This is my son, Dylan.
My grandson. Oh, gosh.
I just met the woman that gave birth to me. I never thought this day would happen.
That's hard to believe.
That's a moment I'll never forget. Ever.
You want Dr. Bill?
Oh, come here. Well, I met my mother.
I truly believe I'm the luckiest man on the planet. On season 6, we got to know Raymond and Nicole. Nicole knew that her mother had passed away, right? No, she knew her mother. We have so many that I sometimes... So she knew her mother, but her mother didn't know who the father was. Raymond. Oh, this is Raymond. Oh, not... Okay. Sorry, this is Raymond Campbell. Raymond happens to be maybe my favorite. Everybody asks me, and I always tell everybody, oh, I love them all. They're all my children. Raymond might be my favorite. Raymond still emails me once a month, once every 6 weeks. So this one was incredibly sad. Raymond was adopted, but he found a couple of relatives or people that had grew up around his mother, but didn't know her name. This family lore that he didn't really know who his family was that his mother had 2 sons, and that his mother kept one son, but adopted him out. And he talks so openly on this show about how that has wounded him deeply, that he doesn't know how to process it. He doesn't know how to get over it. And so he was hoping, A, to find his mother, and B, to find this brother, and he wanted to confront both. We don't control that. We just say, when you say confront, be clear, you've seen our show. You need to be very careful, because that's not what our show's about. But he had anger and then anxiety. Earlier in this season that he was on, he discovered that his mother had passed away. And he found out all these wonderful things about her, that she was an educator, that she had won awards in her town, that she was beloved. And on this day, well, I'll let you watch.
the second that I get out the car, I know exactly who it is. It's my man. Just don't know. Yeah, man. Got a brother. Never had no brother.
Just don't know.
It's been a long time,
Man, I'm so happy to.
The family picture.
Yeah.
I'm Lamont Moore. I'm from Burlington, North Carolina, and I am Ray's brother.
God, I always knew or heard that you existed.
I never knew. Never. I grew up the only child. I mean, I didn't know.
Me too. Yeah.
You grew up the only child?
Yeah. I grew up by myself.
We got a lot of catching up to come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh boy, you just don't know. You just don't know how this feels right here. Oh.
Man, it's one of the best days of my whole life, man.
Oh. I'm glad that I'm able to spend it with you.
Man, I get to be a little brother.
As soon as we looked at each other, it was like, all right, I know what to do. I just supposed to hug and hold and let them know that I'm there for them.
Man, it's got to be one of the best days of my life. Oh, it's just, man, you just don't know. Hold on one second, man.
Come on, we got more family than you.
Hold on.
This is a great thing.
Just give me a second, man. Let me thank God. Never cried so much in my life.
Look,
man.
You ain't gotta be strong. I'll tell you right now.
We got your back.
You ain't gotta be strong. I'm gonna hold you if you need me. You don't gotta be strong. If you need somebody to lean on, I'm your man. I'm telling you, I'm your man.
I'm 2 years old.
Hey, I got you. I did this for you because I wanted you to be loved by me and everybody else. Everybody did this for me so that you could be a part of us. It is really happening. I'm telling you, you just don't know what's happening, but it is happening, it is happening, it's happening.
So did you? It just changed his whole. And I talked to him about this. As I told you, he and I have stayed in close touch. It changed the moment he saw his blood, the moment he saw his brother. All of that animosity immediately washed away. He just wanted to be held by his big brother. Little ironic that he's about a foot taller than his big brother. He lives in Maryland. His brother lives in North Carolina. They have not had a single week go by for 3 years, I think 3 years that they have not met every week. He emails me and says, you don't understand how this has changed my life. You don't understand. And I probably don't, because I know my family. All right, Raymond and Nicole. Liz and Devin. Now, Liz and Devin. Oh, by the way, you told me something that I didn't know. Raymond and Nicole, you said this whole experience also strengthened their marriage. So you saw his wife out there, and I didn't know that they were having marital problems, and now they're just solid as a rock. It's family. And family can be, I want to be clear, family, and I'm not going to ask a show of hands, family can be an adoptive family. It can be you as a single mother or father with your children. It can be a widower or a widow and their children. It can be a blended family. That's family. And I can guarantee you that our Father in heaven, my God, does not look and say, well, that family doesn't work as well as that family, because that's just not how it is. It's family, and it works with love and the Spirit of Christ in those homes and in our lives. The last one that I want to share with you before Rebecca speaks to you. Can I get that water? Thank you. I always hate doing that because you're probably going, man, I want some water. The last one is from season 7. I mean, we could go on and on and on, but I've already talked too long. Remember what I told you at the beginning? This is Liz and Devin Dobson. They're from Pennsylvania. If you remember them, they were Team Red from season 7. Liz knew her mother, but her mother didn't know who her father was. Her mother enjoyed college. And I'm being serious. It's like, man, there's no judgment there whatsoever. It's just that she didn't know who the father was. And so she wondered because she didn't look like her mother. She didn't look like her mother. And so she was like, well, who's my father? What does that look like? Do I have other siblings? Well, this is what happened.
I'm Liz, and this is Devin.
I'm Devin. Nice to meet you. I'm Jerome.
Hi, Jerome. Nice
Whose relative are you? Whose relative do you think I am?
Because hit or miss, it could be either one of us.
Yeah? No guesses?
No, I'm not going for a guess.
Baby, yours?
Maybe mine?
Yeah, you think so?
Possible.
Well, Devin, I'm Liz's father. I am Jerome Vincent Willis Sr. I'm Elizabeth's father.
Wait, let me get to see your face. When Jerome looked at me and said, Liz, I'm your dad, there wasn't a guarantee that I was going to get to hear those words from my biological father. There's just no words. I mean, that was just pure emotion at that point. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I've been waiting for 9 months.
I've been waiting my whole life.
I didn't know. I found out in December. I said, what? I got a daughter. And instantly I had love for you, like my other children. Instantly.
So you heard her father say, I've been waiting 9 months. The reason why is because when we contact them, we might be 9 months away from actually filming. And we point out, to be clear, if we see you post anything, we're glad that you then met your children, but you can't be on the show. I mean, I'm glad that reunion happened, but you can't be on the show. And so I just wanted to, so in case you were wondering, like he said he was waiting 9 months and she said her whole life. It's like because we called him up 9 months earlier and said, you have a daughter. And as is the case, 90% of the time, maybe more than that, the fathers don't know. They're like, I have a what? And what's amazing too is their spouses are always supportive. Their spouses who they married that don't know that they have other children. It's just an amazing thing. But it's the power of family. And that's the testimony I leave with you, is that family, which is the center of this church following our Savior. That we as family can be exalted. We really can. We can have this beautiful experience on earth, but then it can continue forever. I hope that those of you who already enjoy this show will continue to feel the spirit of the show, that you will want to be closer with your family, or if you're searching or thought to search, that you might have a greater sense of urgency to do so. I hope that this strengthens your families. I hope that it strengthens the spirit in your homes when you watch it. That's my prayer, and that's my testimony, that it can and that it does. And I leave that with you in the sacred name of my Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Before Rebecca comes up, I just need to say this. Rebecca was on season 3. Rebecca won season 3. My business partner was embedded as her producer for all the 10 days. We have one producer with each team. 9 months after the show is over, my business partner comes into me and says, "Hey, Dan, remember Rebecca?" "No." "Rebecca?" "No." "Rebecca?" "No, Tom, I don't remember Rebecca." "Well, who, what are you talking?" "Rebecca from Relative Race." "Oh, you should have started with that." "Yes, I remember her." And he goes, I said, "And?" And he goes, "She just got divorced." "Rebecca? The border agent?" "What? Did you see that coming?" "No." "Wow." And I thought that was the end of the story. But he continues. "You know, she's no longer, she doesn't have family in Texas, so she's moving up to be closer to family in like Idaho in that area." I said, "Wow, that's cool. That's great. So amazing that she found family then, you know?" "Yeah. So I want to give her a job." "Really? Where?" "Here at Lensworks." "Rebecca?" "Yes." I said, "Does she know production?" "Nope." "Does she know television?" "Nope." You do understand that those are the two things that we do. And then he immediately said, "Just take it out of my salary. I want her to work here." And I said, "Well, we're not going to take it out of your salary, and she'll obviously work here." This is how our partnership, 50-50 Partners, has lasted 24 years. And so Rebecca came in, and I didn't like it. Didn't like it one bit. Didn't like that she was forced into our company. Didn't like that my business partner was kind of, fathering her. I was like, we'll see about that. And I don't know what she's doing right now, but I'm not going to look. And so she starts as a PA, production assistant. "Go do this. Go do that." "Yeah, thanks. Yeah. How am I doing?" "Yeah, you're fine. Thanks. Go do that." I didn't like it. And then we have an opening for a UPM, our unit production manager for Relative Race. We do a lot of productions. Relative Race is our favorite, and it takes the most amount of our time. And my business partner says, "Man, who are we going to find? Who do we go to look for?" I mean, it's such a key position, and we need experience there. "Rebecca can do that." Now it's my business partner's turn. "Rebecca?" And I said, "She can do it," because she worked in my department the whole time. I said, "I guarantee you, you give that girl something to do, she's going to do it. She's going to do her best. If she doesn't know it, she'll ask. We'll tell her once. She'll never have to ask again." "Okay, she can be the UPM." That is a very difficult position for that show. She oversees all financing, all billing, all contracts, all logistics, all permitting, all insurance. It is mind-blowing. She did it perfectly. 7 years after we hired the most amazing general manager, she says, "I've got to work closer to home." She had almost a 1-hour commute into us. I'm taking a job with the sheriff's department. My business partner says, "Oh my word, what are we going to do?" I said, "I have the answer." He said, "Really? Who do you think we should?" Because I was thinking we can start putting ads out in LA and New York. I said, "Nope, it's closer than that." "Really? Who do you know?" "Oh, you know her too." "Who?" "Rebecca." And he says, "Our Rebecca?" And I said, "Trust me, Tom, she's going to be the best general manager we've ever had." And she does, and she is. And she doesn't make anywhere near $3,000 a month. So, and she deserves everything and more. So I just wanted to qualify, not only was she on the show, and I'm looking forward to hearing her for the first time speak about the show and her experiences, but she is eminently qualified to run our company. And so these are miracles in my life that happened, and one of them is sitting right here. So it's now Rebecca Dalton's turn.
Hi, everyone. You know, sometimes I think that Dan's nice comments are to make up for all the rough early days. Thank you all for being here tonight. It means a lot to us that you come out and that you want to hear us speak about something that we are so passionate about, and the show that we put our hearts and souls into every day. It's not just a job, and it's not just a show. For us, it's life-changing. And the fact that we get to share that with you tonight is an honor. So thank you for all coming. I think that I have a little bit of a different perspective on the show from Dan, from being on the show and now to working behind the scenes. And before I kind of get too much into it, I'm just curious, by a show of hands, how many of you are looking for family, whether that be you yourself have been separated from family, or you know of someone in your family who's lost? Just give me a hand. So there's quite a few of you. I can tell you that there are more people looking for family than you would think possible. When we go casting for the show, it's incredible to see the response of how many people don't know who they're related to. And I can tell you firsthand that when you don't know who your family is, there's a part of you that is missing. There is a piece of you that is missing, and you may not realize it until you fill that hole. So I kind of want to start with a moment that changed my life forever. Some of you might be familiar with it, but we'll go ahead and put it up here. Dan, can you hit that?
Oh, me? I'm not
We're actually related to you. I am related to you.
You look like you're related to me.
My name's Chelsea. I'm your half-sister.
Hi, I'm John. Jason. Nice to meet you.
My baby sister.
It's so good to meet you. Oh my gosh, you look just like us. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I know. I got cake and water all over me, and I'm meeting my sister like this. Sorry I had to do that to you. You're so beautiful. No, thank you. Oh, it's good to see you. Oh my gosh, I have so many questions for you. I know, we have a lot of time to talk. This is my sister.
I'm John.
John, nice to meet you.
This is my husband, John.
Hi. Yes. And your name?
Jason.
Jason. This is my fiance. Yeah. Welcome.
Oh man, I don't even know if there's words for this moment, because I've been daydreaming of it for so long that it's almost unreal. There's no words to describe seeing your sister, who you haven't seen since she was 5. I don't know her, but I know her.
I'm Chelsea Cornwell. I'm 27 years old. I live in Lodi, California, and I am Rebecca Hoyt's sister. Regardless of whether I grew up knowing her or not, she's blood. And she's a little piece of me. So I've always wanted to meet her.
Do you have a good life?
Yeah, I did. Good, yeah. It was wonderful.
She's my baby sister. Meeting Chelsea was about as good as it gets. You don't know how long I've prayed for this day.
This is so good. Yeah, it is. So sorry.
Try not to get emotional. I still cry. Going on the show was an experience that I wasn't prepared for. I knew I was going to meet family. I knew there was a part of me that was missing, but what I didn't understand and that I learned on this journey was that family really is everything. And for those of you that do know your family, you are so very blessed. And hold them close to you, because when you don't know your family, there's something missing. And filling that hole brought a peace that is indescribable. One of the things that I love about relative race and family history is that you get to fill those holes and be completed. And I want to give you guys an example of how the family history work has impacted my life outside of relative race. You all have seen that, or most of you have seen that, and you've seen the process, but what you don't know is what goes on behind the scenes. So we'll go back to a time when I was 16 years old. I'm a convert to the church, and I didn't convert until I was 32. I didn't know anything about the church, but back when I was 16, I was really struggling with being adopted. I was struggling with my place in the world and struggling with the relationships that I had with my adopted family. And you can imagine for a 16-year-old girl, that's a lot of emotions to go through. And I was really, really worried about ever getting to meet my biological mom, who I knew had passed away when I was 2 years old. But it plagued me. Will I ever meet her? Will I ever get to know anything about her? And one night, I had a dream. You guys are very lucky you get to hear something so personal. I had a dream that I was walking through a city, and it was night, the middle of the night, and I walked up this big high-rise, and in the top of this building, the lights were kind of off, and the furniture was covered with sheets, like it was a business office that wasn't used very often. And it's somewhere in the back, behind the boxes and the sheets, there was a glow, and so I followed it. And when I got to the end of the office, I saw this woman. And for those of you who have been to the temple, you'll understand this reference. She was dressed in a plain white gown. And she said, "Honey, I'm your mom. And you don't need to worry about me because you're going to do what you need to do and I'll see you again." And I woke up from that dream so at peace, thinking, okay, I got to see my mom. I don't need to worry about her. I'm going to meet her again one day. So now we fast forward to, I'm 32. It was a year before I went on relative race. And I was a convert to the church. And I went to the temple for the first time to baptize her. And when I walked in and saw everyone in their white robes, I knew without a doubt that that was my mom in my dream. And she was telling me that it was going to be okay. A year later, I went on relative race. And I got to meet the rest of my family and continue my family work in the temple. After my divorce and I came here, or not here, to Texas, I wish. I went to Salt Lake. Don't get me wrong, Salt Lake is great, but it's Texas. I came to Salt Lake and attended the temple. And as I sat in the temple waiting for my chance to go into a session, I could feel a hand on my leg giving me a pat. And I knew without a doubt that it was my mother telling me, "It's going to be okay, honey. You're going to get through this." I knew it. And I knew from that point forward that family history is the most important thing that I can be a part of. Because while I struggle here with challenges, on the other side is my family cheering me on. And while the family that I have left on this earth is limited, I have an immeasurable number of family on the other side. And I can't express how important that is to all of you. Because when you go through your trials and you go through your struggles, your family here and on the other side is cheering you on, just like my mom was. And that's why this show is kind of a big deal to me. I can't imagine what my life would be like without it. And not only did relative race help me find my biological family, it helped me build a family that's not related to me by blood. Our team at LensWorks is really another type of family. And I'm sure a lot of you probably have experienced that with friends or coworkers or neighbors, even your ward. Family is more than just the people that you're related to by blood. But if you want to help someone who's going through a trial, if you want to be a friend to a neighbor, if you want to reach out to someone who knows nothing about the church, talking to them about family is a sure way to open a conversation. Because we all have that in common. We all share the same ups and downs. There isn't a single family out there that escapes trials or challenges. I think Dan and I can tell you for a fact that every closet has skeletons in it, and we all deal with that. But when you do family history work and you speak to others about family history work, it opens up the opportunity to share love, and it opens up the opportunity to talk about the gospel, and it opens up the opportunity to be a decent human being and support one another. I'm incredibly grateful that you all have allowed us to come talk about our experiences and the show that we love and are extremely passionate about. I think what we wanted to do is have a few moments to open it up for questions. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, am I conducting your meeting now? This is a Rebecca takeover. Let's have some questions and answers.
Can you hear me in the back? There you go. And that's why I do what I do for a living. So, seriously, Rebecca can stay there, or I can come to the mic if you can't hear me. But this is the part that I personally love the best. As I said, Rebecca and I have never spoken together. So this is a treat for me. Rebecca, that was amazing. We're going to have to do this all the time now. You know, I appreciate Rebecca saying, I will point out, because I shared it with this family here, and there was a very emotional moment for me on this show because everything's done live to tape. And I lost my oldest son 7 years ago this August. And this show has meant even more than ever. And I've had those, no, I don't want it to be amplified. I've had those moments where I felt my son with me when I'm on the show. And I've never felt that anywhere else. So, we're good. Ask your questions.
I will warn you all, Dan is an extremely emotional human. And he loves work.
I am not. I'm sorry.
He never cries.
I am not.
Team red or team blue?
I don't even know what you're referencing right now.
Season 9.
So tonight, what he's referencing is, unless you guys are binge watching, if you've been watching it weekly, believe me, we came to state conference today, and several people came up to me afterwards and said, where's Sister Carter? Wasn't Sister Carter one of them? Yeah. Sister Carter was like, can you help me to understand why the finale is tonight and you're here tonight? So Team Red, well, let's just say, I'm not going to say anything, so thank you. He's wondering who wins tonight the $50,000. And I'm not going to say.
That's a great question.
That's
Any
a
others?
very good question. Next question. Yes.
I love the show. Great
Thank you.
show.
Thank you.
I get emotional every single show. I just want to know about the show, how you determine what the allotted time is.
Sure. It gets asked all the time. And Rebecca actually stays with me in kind of our headquarters where that video conference call is at night, and she is receiving all the times from all the producers. So the allotted time is fairly simple. And when I tell people, they're like, really? That's it? It's like, that's it. The allotted time is we in real time, once we give them their city that they're headed to, and we say your clock starts now, we have gone to Google Maps. And we see how much time it should take them to get from there to where the challenge is in the city. Now along the way, okay, and then from the challenge to their relative. And then we have tested the challenges themselves, those physical challenges, and we test through often about 50 times, and we take every time that those challenges are tested, we total those up and divide it by 50, and that's the allotted time for the challenge as well. And so when we say that they're over their allotted time, because they're racing each team's racing into a different city, they each have a different allotted time. But how do we get those allotted times? It's that simple. So, and so people say, well, they got it, they came upon an accident or a construction zone. That's not fair. And I go, yeah, that's called a television show. So we kind of like it when that happens, because we're like going, oh, this is going to be good. Fans aren't going to like this. Yes, ma'am.
Does it break your heart when you have to give that third strike?
Yes, about 95% of the time. About 5% of the time, that's less than that. Maybe 3% of the time, both myself, Rebecca, and basically all 42 people on the crew are going, yeah, they're out, okay. Because you don't see the difficulties behind the scenes, and we had so much difficulty, I'm surprised nobody's asked it here. Has anybody got a question about what happened to... There we go, I get that every time. What happened to Team Blue?
Yes.
Difficulties.
So the legalities of it have been settled. Team Blue physically confronted from the moment they were on the show, including myself and all the team members. They cannot swear on our sets. It's part of their contract. But there was physical confrontations to the point where just after 3 days, because I kept telling the crew, look, remind them of the contract, remind them of this, because they call Rebecca, and then if they have real problems, they call me, or Rebecca calls me and says, you got to take care of this. And so I remember very clearly that night, and it was day 3, it was just 3 days into the race. I remember they were in Atlanta, and my crew called me up, and they said, Dan, we are seriously very concerned for our safety. I said, what happened tonight? And he told me, I said, did you get it on camera? Did you keep the cameras rolling? Yes. I said, he's gone. I said, go back, take the keys out of the car, move the car, take it away, because they will trash that car. I said, I will get a airline ticket for them tomorrow to fly home. So on the show, what we said, and this was a long powwow between us, the PR department, the marketing department, and the top executives at BYU TV, that literally for about 24 hours, literally I was up for about 24 or 30 hours straight. And if you see me that next episode looking a little tired, it's because I had no sleep. The makeup artist was amazing. And I remember exactly what I said. Teams, as you've all noticed, were minus one of our teams tonight. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, Team Blue is no longer able to participate in this race. We wish them well, and we have delivered to them all of the information regarding his father, which we have found out for him. And then we showed a picture of his father, and that he was deceased, and he would have found that out in the race. But Yep. So I'd say 2 or 3% of the time when we dismiss somebody, it is like, yes. And 98% of the time, it is so hard, including I'm not supposed to have favorites, but sometimes they're my favorites. And I'm just like, are you sure that was their time? How many times have I said that? Rebecca, go
Every
check the
day.
times again. Are you sure that's their time? I'm just like, triple check it. Are you sure that's their time? Because I have to be the one that says, unfortunately, you have earned your third strike. Now, we came up with a solution for that, by the way, about 3 seasons ago, if you saw that. Because the show's all about meeting your family. So what did we come up with? The golden ticket, which gave them 1 more day to meet their family. And then what's the next question we always hear in these gatherings? Dan, please tell me that you give them all the information on their relatives. And the answer is, oh, yeah, we do. Because that's what the whole show's about. And by the way, it's all the family that we've researched that wasn't on the show. Anybody that will legally allow us to give them the information, we give them all that information.
Every season is just not better.
Oh, thank you. And this season that we'll start filming in 2.5 weeks, it airs this fall. As they say in the South, is going to be a good one. Yes, sir.
All right, so I get that throughout the day. My question is, why is it always a surprise in the morning? Like, oh, there's a text from Dan.
Because no. The answer is because they don't know when they're going to get it. And so if you remember, there was one season where they weren't packed, they weren't ready, and we had another team, and we played on this point. The other team was sitting in their car, not talking to their relatives, like, we're not talking to you. We loved meeting you. We're in a race. We'll get back with you. And they sat in their car waiting for the text. We have people that have been on the show that have watched every episode of every season multiple times and have what they call their relative race Bible. They should call it their relative race Book of Mormon. But it's okay. We believe in the Bible as well as the Book of Mormon, to be clear. And so we have people that are really prepared to be on the show, and then there are others, and Rebecca's not alone, although they won. There are many others that, so I call all the teams like the week before we film.
About that.
And I say, do you have any questions? Because it's about to get real. So any questions? I remind them, they're under contract, so you can't back out. Do you have any questions? And I get this all the time. Yeah, so Dan, when do we get our phones back? And I said, at the end of the race. No, I mean, like, I know that's for the camera, but like during the night, when do we get our phones back? Oh, you don't get your phones back. No, seriously. Have you watched the show? And they go, well, yeah, but I mean, when we're not on camera. No, you'll never see your phones again until after the show. And that's when I see in their eyes, I'm just like, oh, it just got real for them.
I will tell you from firsthand experience, though, when Dan texts in the morning, I'm not an actor. What am I supposed to do with this thing Dad's texting? So it always comes off as a surprise, like, oh, yeah, he's still here.
Well, if anybody watched season 1, we had to figure out, for the team that got their third strike, I had to fly out. The next day, I had to fly out and tell them, and we got rid of that real quick, because it was like, I got to get to Pawtucket, Rhode Island by tomorrow at 6 p.m., and I'm sitting in Salt Lake City. How is that going to happen? Well, okay, so we got you a private thing here, and then you're going to get there, and then we're going to get a driver, and then you should show up 10 minutes before the cameras go. That ain't going to work. So, yeah, we've just decided that we would just do it on that call, and it's not fun. Sometimes it is. But it's not, in all sincerity, it's most of the time, it just rips my heart out. That's why I'm in tears half the time. Yes.
Yes, so my family and I found your show.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was you talking behind your mask. I'm sorry. You go right ahead, and then I'm going to talk to you. And I'm thinking, what a beautiful voice. Okay, go. I was so confused because I couldn't see the mic, and I thought, her mask is mic'd. That is brilliant. I'm going to get, so go ahead.
Thanks. We found your show during COVID. My family has watched during the season of all the twins, or the twin brothers at least, and we just loved it and cried and bonded. So we were always curious. My family this last Christmas did the spit test and found some of our relatives, but is that the only way that you're able to find people? Do you look through other ways, and
No,
how is that?
That's what starts it. Rebecca.
That DNA test is probably 5 to 10% of how we find
It was not originally. It was everything on the first season. Everything. But now, go ahead.
Now we have a team of genealogists led by Tristan Tolman, who is our lead genealogist. And she will look at the DNA and say, okay, I've got some names on there. And then she goes to work with her spreadsheets and her research and pulling records and ordering records. And before we know it, sometimes within, 5 hours one time?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
There's been
Sometimes she had
miracles that have happened there like you can't believe.
And other times we'll sit months on research before we can crack a case. But the genealogy team is really the heart and soul of the research.
And they're private detectives. And we've literally hired private detectives, we've hired police, we've hired lawyers. I'll tell you a miracle. Remember, we just showed you the fedora, Michael, Team Blue? His records are sealed in the state of North Carolina. And I know there's many attorneys out here. My father was an attorney. I played one on TV. No, he was an attorney. And so the records are sealed. And we hire an attorney anyway, and he says, look, I'm considered one of the top here. This is what I do. You're not going to get the records. And I said, will you please petition the court? It's going to cost you like $12,000. And I said, and I had this feeling, he just needed to be on the show. And there was more to the story on top of that. Anyway, this is going on for about 3 months. And he says, yeah, look, I've actually researched your company and what you guys do. I kind of feel bad taking your money because you're never going to get the records unsealed. I said, okay, let's go ahead and go to court. Why? That's going to cost you money. I know. Here, again, Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. He calls us up and he says, I don't believe this. I don't understand it. You just changed the courts in the state of North Carolina. They are unsealing his records. And we went, are you serious? Oh, yeah. He goes, don't understand why, don't understand how, but you got all his records coming to you. And we found everybody because of that. That was a miracle. Now, she does not have a mic in her mask, but she is going to get to ask the next question. And I see you back there.
The DNA takes you different places from the spit test. And most of the races in the continental USA will relative race go outside of the USA to find relatives?
Please reach out to the network, because I have been asking that for 4 years, I think. 3 or 4 years, I've gone to the network, sat down with the executives and said, everywhere I go, and if you guys are at Roots Tech, I'm talking to the network, where 60,000 people show up, that's maybe the number 2 or 3 thing I am asked. When are you going to go somewhere else? When are you going to go? We just for season 10, we just had, for the 10th season, we had the most amazing thing ever. And we were going to go to England, and it was going to blow everybody away as part of the show. And it was going to be amazing. Castles and, blood pudding with relatives. And if you've been in England, that's what happens, right? My son served his mission over there. And so that was going to happen. And they said, anyway, the answer was no. So we hope to be able to do that someday. Because when we first started this show, they had 700,000 people total of DNA in their banks. I think they now have 50 million. So believe me, it's a lot easier for us now than it was in season 1.
Okay, I've been one of your fans from the very beginning. You've
and
done a
that's
very
why
good
I
job.
loved you even with the mask on. I did. I love you. Yes, we had hands up back there. I saw them. Oh man, I'm glad we have somebody young with the mic. He's running. I couldn't do that.
Okay, so obviously, like, parents and siblings would, like, cry over the phone when you contact them, like, if they found they had a child or a sibling that they didn't know. But have you ever had, like, cousins cry over the phone?
Oh, yeah. Oh, she actually does the screening with far more than I do. I come in kind of at the tail end of it because she has Zoom meetings with hundreds and hundreds of people. And she's the one that tells me and Tom, my business partner, hey, I feel really good about these people. They're really emotional. Look, emotion is part of our show. And we may find somebody that says, yeah, I'm really, really excited to be on the show and, and meet my brother. That'll be great. We're like, yeah, I don't think so. And then we sadly have others. Sadly, if it's a key relative defined by us, by a mother or father or brother or sister, and if that key relative is key to the rest of their story and they refuse to be on the show, and that happens occasionally, it does not happen very often, but it does happen occasionally, then we have to move on to a backup. And then we move on to a backup, meaning a backup team and a backup team. And we have started their DNA. We have never once, the 4 teams that you see on the show have never once been our top 4 teams that we want to be on the show. Not one time. Yes.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I see a Roller Race shirt.
And not just any relative race.
Oh, I see another Roller Race shirt. I love the one that's sitting down. Those are my favorite shirts. They are so soft and so nice. I am curious where you got that, girl.
Well, actually, my brother lives in St. George, Utah, and I don't know if it was you or somebody from the show gave him some of the shirts, and he knows that me and my mom and my daughter love the show, and so he passed them to us. So
I'll bet you that was my nephew. So I have family down in St. George, a brother that's down there, and then on my mother's side, I have relatives down there, but I'll bet you it was my nephew who, if you're familiar with stuff in Utah, they have these custom soda pop stores. And he opened up one in Vegas called Pop. And he opened his second and his third in St. George. And every time he's opened a store, he now has 4, he asks me to come out and be like a celeb. And they get to spin a relative race and pop dial, and they win shirts and things like that, relative race. And it seems to be successful for him. But he's my family, and I love him, so I do it readily.
And he knows you like to talk.
yeah, it was great. We were out for my dad's funeral, and so he had given it to us at that time, and it was just kind of a cool family connection too, because like I said, we all watched it. But my question is for you, how do you come up with the challenges? Because they always look like so much fun, and I think that should be a birthday party where you can just go and do like 5 different challenges or something. And so anyway, I'm like, that's the job that I want, is to come up with the challenges. Anyway.
I'm looking for I'm totally serious. I'm looking for a business partner. My daughter, about 6 years ago, my daughter's my oldest, and she is sharp, and she loves roller race. In fact, that has so changed her life that she wants to adopt. She has 4 children of her own, and she has started a local chapter in her town of Alpine, Utah, that's all supporting foster parents. I mean, it's changed her life. Well, about 5 years ago, she said, Dad, we got to have relative race at our family reunion, all the challenges. I said, no problem, we'll do it. So we brought it out, and my family of like 125 people said, oh yeah, that was the best family reunion ever. And so my daughter said, Dad, we got a business here. And I said, I think you're right. I said, corporate outings, even families if they wanted it, we just give them a shopping list of the challenges that they can have, and we'll rent those out. And I cannot find a business partner. I'm like, I don't have time to do it. So if you just give me a call and say you were the lady in Irving, and we'll try to figure that out. I will tell you, how do we come up with them? Tell them how do we do that? Tell them about the team.
Yeah, we have a team of 4 challenge producers, and they will come in months and months and months before we start the season, and they'll just be this think tank, and they sit around and they come up with fun games and ideas, and then they bring them to Dan and the rest of the office, and we talk about them and how can we make them better, and wouldn't it be cool if this was 20 times bigger, and it's just a lot of playing at work while we come up with fun things to do, and then they build prototypes and we test them in the office, and if they work, we go out and test them with the fans.
Not in the office. We go, yeah. No, we're not doing that stuff in our offices.
Sometimes.
But we
when he's not around sometimes.
we do them outside. And in fact, we just tested season 10 with Relative Race fans. I don't know if you saw it, if you guys follow on BYU TV, but we just asked Relative Race fans to come out, and we had hundreds of people that wanted to come, and I think 40 or 50 we picked the time slots, and they just tested, and we timed them. They just did this
a few days ago.
Friday or Thursday? Oh, we moved it because of rain. It was Thursday, yeah.
So yeah, we just tested them all. And I get to oversee that, so that's really fun. I get to go down during the concepting and stuff and go, no, the chickens aren't loud enough. You got to make them cluck more, you know? Or no, the slingshot doesn't sling them far enough. We got to make them just fly out there. Then I come down, oh no, that's way too far. The cameras will never pick them up. We got to come back on the band strength. And and then they go, this is really easy, Dan. I go, no, that's because you guys have been doing it for 2 months. I said, they're not going to be able to do it. Oh yeah, they will, it's really easy. We had a season, 2 seasons ago? 1 season ago.
No, 7.
Every producer called me every day, the producers of all the teams, livid with me. The only one that could talk to me the way that they wanted to was my business partner. He lit into me saying, Dan, nobody out here can do the challenges. Why did you approve these? Nobody can do any of these things. I looked at Rebecca and I said, Rebecca, no longer am I going to let those challenge producers tell me that they're so easy. Yeah, they're not. I'll go down and do them, and I'll say, well, they're not easy for me. Oh, they're really easy for us because you guys have been. No, my wife came in. Well, your wife's been doing them for 2 months. It's like they're not as easy as you think.
That's true.
Yes.
Rebecca, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. I kind of relate because I'm adopted and I have an adopted family. And I was just wondering, can the church help me find my biological parents?
I don't know specifically about all of the church programs. I do know there are things out there called search angels. Have you ever worked with any of those?
No. I just, when I first met the elders, they introduced me the family tree, and they're from China, so I don't expect us to find them, but I thought maybe if the church can.
There are lots of search angels out there who do help people, and some of them will specialize in certain areas. Maybe they're really good with research in Italy, or maybe they're really good with research in China. So you'll have to nail down one of those. But I believe most of the family history individuals who have the callings. Do we have anyone in here who has the calling for family history? I don't see. Yeah.
Family history consultant.
I would check with one of them and see if they might be able to hook you up with a search angel.
Thank you so much.
So
you can also try to be on the show.
What's your name?
My name's Daniel Eisenhower.
Okay. So we've had 4 countries reach out to us and ask if they could get the rights to produce relative race in their countries. Germany, England, Australia, and China.
Wow.
So we hope that may happen. We've talked with the network, and we'll see. There's nothing that we would like more than to see this show in every country on earth, because what it does is find family, unite family, and strengthen families.
Well, I love my family, so I just was wondering. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you both and everyone here for having this. It's been amazing. Our family has been changed because of this show. I'll never forget sitting at my grandmother's apartment in Provo, Utah for dinner one evening when I found out that my grandfather was not my biological grandfather. I had no idea. I was in college. And I later found out that I knew nothing about my mother's side of the family. I didn't even know my grandfather's name. And I ended up years later thinking one day after church, I'm just going to do something on Google and see what I can find. And was able to have a strange connection to a person in Alaska. I called, and it ended up being my mother's first cousin. and it opened up a whole world of family history back. They even sent me genealogical records. It was amazing, and it just opened up a whole world. So this show has changed us, and I want to thank you for the inspiration to do that. My question for you is, during the show, there's obviously some amazing connections that happen. I can only imagine that, as you've mentioned, some of these, they're getting together on a weekly basis, probably not all of them. But what have you seen as kind of the fruits after the show that's happened? Can you tell us a little
So,
bit about
Rebecca,
that?
tell them there's a way that they can find out. We actually have shows that you can watch that are like that. Tell them about that.
The connections that happen after, we have a whole series. We did an After the Finish Line series that you can look up, mostly through the social medias for BYU, but that gives a follow-up to a lot of those teams and how they've stayed connected or have not stayed connected, but a majority of them have. I can tell you from my side, my family and I get together 2 to 3 times a year. And my sister and I have an incredible relationship because of it. And I have an aunt who treats me like a daughter. And for a lot of the teams, we've heard that the stories are very similar. I would probably say, 90% of the teams?
Yeah, and again, these follow-ups that are called after the race, watch them. They are, it answers all those questions, because that's what I get when I come out and speak. People say, well, what's happened since? And who's on the phone when they call? And, on that.
Good for her.
You tell your wife she missed out on a really good fireside. So give me the phone next time she calls. I'll talk to her. So we have a series on that, and and the vast majority remain very close. Now, to be clear, it's very unusual that they stay in touch with all 9 of their relatives that they met. It's 10 days. On the 10th day, it's a competition for the $50,000. But it's unusual that they stay in touch with all 9. But everyone has key relatives that changed their lives forever. Precious and Paris, do you remember them? Yes. Do you remember Precious meeting her father? That good man that went out and bought a suit that was 2 times too large for him and he was broke. And he did that because the first time his daughter was going to see him, he was going to make sure that he was at his finest for her. They meet 2 to 3 times a week. And that was 4 years ago. She says, my relationship with my father, you can't believe. My kids and their grandfather, and this good man, it changed his life. It's awesome. That's what family does. Yes, ma'am. Oh, this ma'am then. Okay. I'm cross-eyed. I'm looking all over.
Here, I'll take it, because...
You don't even get to ask.
Yeah.
Your dad took it.
My kids have a silly question for you, and I have a serious question.
I like silly questions, too.
The silly question is, when you get to the end of the day, or the end of the day, and you go and you walk up to the Mac, and you get ready to do the video conference, it's not plugged in.
Yeah. It's the Mac is plugged in, just so you know. The Mac is plugged in. I don't know what you're seeing. The Mac is plugged in. And those 4 screens on the shot, I literally so what you think, that's not true. If that's Mac,
it doesn't look plugged in because there's not a cord.
There's a
no. There is a
that runs to
cord.
a
We
mirroring
tape it with what's called black mask tape so that you don't see and it blends into the desk, because we're trying to make it look clean. The Mac is plugged in. All of the meaning, I'm not looking at a blank screen. All 4 of them are on the screen. In fact, I just asked maybe a week ago. I just said there's going to be a new set for season 10, because our old set got bought out, and it's now going to be a club like those. I call them discos. It's going to be a big dance club. And I was like, well, that's where we told you to buy it, but now they're coming in. So we have a new set, and I just asked. I said, man, it would be so cool if we had a screen that was like 4 times bigger than a Mac. So it's plugged in, and it's live to tape, and it's real.
And then, serious question.
Oh, that was the silly question?
No, that was...
Because that's a pretty serious question. So that was a very good question. Sorry to disappoint you if you thought like, Dad, I got Dan. He's a liemouth. Nope.
So these, I mean, the show is fantastic. The stories are incredible. It's hard to watch it and not, like wipe tears away from your eyes. Like, man, somebody's cutting onions. But the point is there a way to just send a positive, uplifting message to people who've been on the show to say, hey, look, your story meant a lot to me, and I've loved it. So thank you for being there.
Again, Rebecca knows everything about social media, and I'm sure they're in chat rooms.
Yeah, if you go to the Facebook page, most of the relative race competitors are a part of that group. Some of them, like myself, don't always check in. But if you wanted to send them something, that's the best place to do it and tag their names.
Tom? Yeah, we need the one. Yes, ma'am.
So do the contestants really have to wear the clothes that they did the challenge in, like, all day?
No, and notice that they often don't. Now, sometimes the producer, and it's usually my business partner, when I will ask them, hey, they just had whipping cream all over them, or Jell-O, or whatever, right?
Fried chicken.
Or chicken flour all over them, and I'll go, why are they in those out? And it's usually Jared or Tom. Mm-hmm. And they go, because that's great television. And I go, no, I want them to see them clean. Nope, it's funnier with them. And I actually will go, and both Tom, my business partner, obviously, but Jared has been with us 12 years now. He's probably, oh my word, that was a miracle and blessing to us. And so I trust and respect Jared immensely. And so I'll say, okay, but I don't know how we're going to go from sad music over here, finding Dad, and then, you're all in Jell-O. So we figure it out sometimes. I would rather see them cleaned up, but they have multiple clothes that they can wear, and at the relative's home, they clean those clothes. And we hear that all the time. They're like, oh yeah, we had like 4 sets of clothes to clean. So it's like, yep, that's when they do it. Yes.
Troy and Nicole.
Oh.
They are not currently in Texas right now.
Yeah.
They actually, after Relative Race, sold their businesses and their home and bought an RV, and they travel and spend their time at their different relatives' house each year.
They sold their businesses, bought an RV, and all they do is go visit their family that they met on the show. That's how much, no, I'm serious. And they'll be with family. They'll be with family for like 6 months, but they'll stay in their RV until, I don't know, if someone says, hey, thanks, good to have you, you can move on. But that show changed their lives forever. Yes? So I really appreciate that. If anybody thinks that you would like to be on the show because you don't know who your parents are, and that's the key, we don't get it so much anymore, but people like, yeah, I want to be on the show because I know I do really well without maps. And it's like, yeah, that's not our show. I've always wanted to know who my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was. Yeah, that's not our show. If you are looking for a family and you feel that you have a good story, we have our own site. It's an organic site called RelativeRaceCasting.com. Go there. Anybody that you know, tell them to go there.
And I will see your application.
Yes. Doggone it, remind me of your name. I love your suit. Oliver. It's so cool. Yeah.
Do you ever swap who eats suit during the race, or is it set day by day?
Go ahead.
What was the question? Do you ever swap?
Do we ever swap relatives along the routes, or is it set day by day?
So initially, we do set relatives every day. We have the whole thing planned out. However, as everybody knows, life never goes according to plan. So we always end up having backup relatives in place because of hurricanes, forest fires, flight delays. Something happens, we're not able to get a relative on that route, or they're not able to get to where they're supposed to be. So we have to bring someone else in. So yes, we do plan, but we're also pretty talented at keeping up with backup plans just in case.
Just so you know, that happens very rarely. The routes are set, and 98% of the time, they all work out.
We're going to have one more right here.
Oh, you can ask me a question. He said one more. I say two more, and I have the microphone, young lady. So you get to ask after that. Go ahead.
How long does it take to make the whole season?
That is that's maybe the best question of the night, as far as I'm concerned. She asked, how long does it take to make or produce an entire season? The process from beginning to end is generally about 1 year. And that young lady standing up had a question.
Why do you do the challenges?
What was that? I'm sorry, sweetheart.
Why do you do the challenges?
So that's a good question, too. Many people ask, I don't like the challenges, and they see me at Roots Tech, and we have a booth. And how many people do you think I shake hands with?
Oh,
anyway.
thousands.
And many people are very bold. It's usually tenacious women that come up, and they go, you know what, I want to talk to you, young man. And I'm like, well, I'm probably older than you, but go ahead. And then they sit there and they say, well, you shouldn't kick anybody off the show. I don't kick anybody off the show. They've earned their third strike. Well, you should never have the challenges. Those are dumb. Well, there's a whole group of people that say our show that's some of the best part. The bottom line is, why is our show constructed the way that it is because there's no other show like it. There are actually many other shows where they do research and find a key family member, and at the end of the 30 minutes, they go and meet that key family member. And I'm glad that those shows are there. But we were asked originally to design a show that would gather everybody, young, old, middle-aged, it didn't matter. And for the record, young lady, I am so glad you asked that question. We have been told that we're the top-ranked show, and we've been told that we're the only what BYU TV calls multi-generational show, which means fathers, mothers, grandparents, children, grandchildren, all gather together and all enjoy this show. We hope that while maybe you don't like the challenges, and that surprises me, but while you don't like the challenges, there are many, many people that say, I love that aspect of the show because my emotions go all over the map. I'm having fun. Now I want to do the challenges. I can't understand why they can't read maps, or why did they make that turn, or why is that cop pulling them over? And we've had all those things happen. And that's how we designed the show, to be different from any other show out there. And by design, when they arrive at that door, they're usually mentally, physically, and emotionally spent. And that's by design, so that they are just open. Their emotions are open, their hearts are open, and we hope their spirits are open when somebody says, I'm your mother, or I'm your father. I think that's going to be enough for the evening. Just want to thank President Chapman, and more importantly, want to thank you for coming tonight. I really do, you guys. Really, really thank you for being here. It's been an honor and a privilege. And you know what? Howdy right back to you at the end, or good night, y'all. So thank you.
I think we're in a sacred space, but I think there are times where it would be appropriate and to show our appreciation to these two for what they've done. We're going to have a closing hymn and prayer. And then I want you to, if you want to stay for just a little activity, we're going to play Relatives Around Me. And if you want to get out your device, your Family Search app, if some of you don't have Family Search on your phone, then ask your missionary that's nearby, and they can help you download this app. But it has a little way for you to connect with people in the same room, and we'll do that in just a minute. I want to take you to one last thought. At the end of the Old Testament, the very last two verses of the book of Malachi in the Old Testament make a prophecy. Behold, says Malachi. The Lord says through Malachi, behold, I will send you Elijah, the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to the fathers. You live in an amazing day, my dear brothers, my dear sisters, when hearts are turning. People want to know, where's my family? And relative race is just one wonderful piece of helping us to do that. Again, we're grateful to Dan and to Rebecca for coming and sharing their stories tonight. We're going to end by singing hymn number 295, O Love That Glorifies the Son. And our closing prayer will be offered by Aaron Christensen, again, one of our missionaries here in the mission. And then, if you want to stay seated for just a minute, we'll tell you how to do relatives around me, and we'll tell you how to find your relative tonight. Here we go.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are so very grateful for this evening that we were able to share together. Father, we are so grateful for the special spirit that is felt from Dan and Rebecca and the opportunity that you bless us with to live with our families forever. Father, thank you so much for Dan and Rebecca and the words that were shared. Help us to go and to rejoice with our families and to share the gospel and the love that comes from Thee, Father. We ask Thee for protection this evening as we travel back to our homes, that we'll be able to be protected from any harm or accident. Father, we thank Thee for all the hands and that has helped make this possible tonight, to invite the Spirit into our hearts. Father, we ask for any blessings we stand in need of at this time and do so humbly. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.